Okay, right. Um, Online people, online, can you hear me? Yes, good afternoon. Shall we wait another maybe 2-3 minutes? Right? Hello, physical like right? Let's wait another few minutes, then we can start. Okay. Okay. Shall we start? Right? Um, okay. So, online people and everyone. So, this is my sort of idea that I have in mind for this class. So you have only 10 months, 10 months remaining in 2026 August is the exam, right? Online people, you can hear me, right? Ask any question. So in that 10 months, so the average sort of the place in usual theory classes is at the end of grade 12, again, end of grade 12 and sort of in the beginning of grade 13, excretion, immunity, and maybe some classes have done nervous system. Those are the usual places. And at that speed, if you are thinking you won't be able to cover the syllabus, so I'm providing that solution. Right? By August, before August, at least 1 month before, I'm going to finish the whole revision and theory of the entire syllabus. Right? So I'm going to start from, so my timeline is like this. I have made a video of this, so I won't go into detail what my exact timeline is. So 2025 October is where we are, right? And 2026 August is our deadline. 10 months. So we are going to start today with reproduction. That topic I chose because it's sort of a very question heavy topic, and also I'm sure you haven't done it in any other class. So that's why I'm starting with just as an introduction, right? So within October, I plan to finish reproduction and also start support, right? Just rapid revision, right? Rapid theory, right? Because you haven't learned it, rapid theory. That is October month plan. Okay. Then Next, I'm going to go back into grade 13 animal form topics such as endocrine, nervous, and other coordination topics, right? That is going to be also rapidly taught. Then we are going to move on to molecular, then genetics, molecular, micro, like that. Those will be covered as rapid theory. At the same time, there's a mixture of revision, right? Grade 12 revision is going to happen, starting with animal form, then plant form, evolution, and ending with unit 2 revision, right? Chemical basis revision. That is sort of the revision and rapid theory plan. At the same time, parallelly, I have planned 5 full papers, right? Five full papers. Those will be held as mock exams, right? There's one at the end of this month. Full papers means, so I'm going to modify it up to the end of animal form. So this month, it's going to only include till the end of animal form. By full papers, what I mean is 5 hours, okay? 5-hour papers, right? 5-hour papers. But anyway, I'm going to mark them, the essay papers. I'm going to mark the essay papers and provide you. Online students also, I'll be marking and sending you. Yes, right? So that is the paper plan. Almost every 2 months, we are going to do a full paper, right? And that is just for the exam, like exam experience, right? But in every topic that we are doing, we are going to discuss all the past paper questions, right? Categorized MCQ, structure essay, model essays, or karma. And so model questions are included. That's the plan in the basis of writing questions, right? Essay practice, almost every week I'm going to give you homework essays, and then we are going to discuss the essays, or I am going to give you the marking scheme, right? Anyway, so essay writing and essay marking are part of the revision. That is the sort of the plan. So we are going to so the class time is 4 hours. So within the 4 hours, without wasting your time, we are going to do the maximum amount of work. Right? Otherwise, then you can go home and do chemistry and physics, right? And our memorization part you have to do, right? I'm going to nail sort of the revision and the theory, understand, and question practice. That will be covered within these 4 hours, right? With time, I'm going to start another strictly only online question discussion VKK method, right? Probably it will be a free session, right? That not yet, right? There's no requirement, not yet. There's about 10 months left. No, maybe in the last few months, I'll start a free late night question discussion. It's free, right? If you're coming to the proper class, you will be able to join free. So that's the plan I have in mind. Do you have any suggestions for the class plan? Nothing. Right? So, yeah, this is the timeline. I have a video explaining my whole plan. I'll send it to you. Okay. Then shall we start? Online people, any questions? So reproduction. There's a lot of theory, right? At least one MCQ every year. At least one MCQ. There's a chance of up to 3 MCQs, right? Up to 3 MCQs. Rarely up to 2 MCQs. Very likely, but definitely one MCQ. 1/3 of a structured essay, right? Structured essay 1/3 part usually third question, maybe part B structured essay, part B or part C is reproduction. And essay, full essay chance right? Whole essay question. There are 2 essays from animal form, right? Question number 7, 8 of 6, 7 usually now from animal form. Animal form so full chance of having a reproduction essay is there. Okay, so that's why I'm starting from this because it's an interesting section as well as a very high yield, right? We'll make the results, let's say, are benefit. So that's why I'm starting from there. So, okay. Any questions, online people? Understanding okay, right? There are? Sure. Okay. So, reproduction, I'll try to make it into a sort of very friendly to memorize, right? Mataka තියාගන්න ලේසි විදියකට let's do it. So, what is the definition of reproduction? That's the first thing you have to know. So, take out your resource books. Resource එකේ sure. Grade 13 එකනේ. All right. Can you two share? Okay. Online people, take out grade 13 resource book. Do you have? Do you want me to send the PDF? Anyone who has the PDF, you can put in the chat. Or do you want me to put it in the chat? You have, right? Online people? There's 14 in the meeting, yes. Anyone having the resource or not having, please put in the chat. Okay, I need to send the PDF. Okay. The thing is, in my PDF, I have written things down. So, I'll send the link to download. If anyone has the resource, you can send. Okay, give me 1 minute, Dana. I put in the group that we are starting reproduction, right? You should be prepared with the resource book. Okay, I'm uploading it. If you don't have, you can get it downloaded from the chat. All right. So reproduction is what? What is the definition? First of all, you need to know. It's the biological process through which a new generation of individuals is produced from existing organisms. Highlight. Right. Okay, it's in the chat. Quickly download it and refer. Okay. Biological process through which new generation of individuals is produced from existing organisms. All right. So you learned about this as one of the characteristics of living organisms, right? Organism, if it's living, it has to have the ability to either reproduce or not the ability but the potential, right? Right? Because of some defect, they can be sterile, but inherently they have the ability to reproduce, right? As a human, a female is born with, let's say, as a normal human female has the ability to reproduce, right? Other than having a problem or a disease or a birth defect, they have the inherent ability to reproduce. That's why a living organism, one of the living characteristics of a living organism is reproduction. So we can classify reproduction based on, let's say, how many organisms are involved, right? According to the number of organisms involved, we have two types of reproduction. What are they? yet asexual, and is sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction has only the involvement of only one organism, right? That is whatever the parent, only one parent, right? Maybe no sexual reproduction. It involves at least two parents, the mother and the father. Okay, two parents, the mother and the father. So we are going to talk first about asexual reproduction. Few features of asexual reproduction. What do you know? Always asexual reproduction, one parent. The reproduction happens or the organism is produced by what cell division? Mitosis. Basic things. In sexual reproduction, before the organism is produced, there is always what? I mean, there is two parents involved, first of all, two parents, and those two parents are going to do meiosis. Meiosis. Through that meiosis, what are they going to make? They are going to make a sperm, that is the male gamete containing the male information, and the female egg or the ovum, sperm and the egg. Right? Let's focus on asexual reproduction first. What is the definition? Highlight. Is a mechanism through which new individuals are generated from a single parent without the fusion of egg or sperm. We are in page 45. Okay. People who just downloaded the resource, page 45, grade 13 resource. Okay. So definition, mechanism through which new individuals are generated from a single parent without the fusion of egg or sperm. Egg එකක් sperm එකක් කියලා එකක් නැහැ. Because why? It's like photocopy. කෙලින්ම new existing parent, there's a child or next generation, right? We say offspring එකක්. So it relies entirely on mitotic cell division, right? Highlight, these are the features in the resource book. It relies entirely on mitosis. Right, highlight, these are facts about asexual reproduction. Then there are some advantages, or you can say favorable features. It allows rapid multiplication of individuals from single parents, because as you know, mitosis can happen very rapidly. It's a simple cell division, right? So mitosis can happen very rapidly, and these asexually reproducing organisms can reproduce very fast. Then no time or energy spent in searching for mates for the reproduction. Now, egg එකක් හදන කෙනෙක්ට sperm එකක් හදන කෙනෙක් හොය හොය යන්න දෙයක්. There is no need to find a partner, because only one parent can do the job. Right? If you look at the human population, we undergo a lot of trouble to find a reproductive partner, right? කෝටි ගණන් දීලා wedding ගන්නවා. So that is all. It has evolved into difficulty in finding a partner, right? Right. So more complex the organism, more difficult to find a partner. Like that. More simple the organism, very easy to reproduce. Okay. So we are the most complex animals. So we have the most trouble finding reproductive partners. Right. Properly done. Okay. Then the produced offspring are genetically identical to each other. Mitosis. Mitosis එකේ exact photocopies are made. No, DNA is copied and then given to two cells. DNA copy or not given to two cells. Basically, as I say, photocopy, right? Several methods of asexual reproduction are found among invertebrates. You have in your syllabus 3 kinds of asexual reproduction. 3 kinds of asexual reproduction you have in your syllabus. First one, budding. Budding. You need to know what is budding and the examples. Budding. So, form of asexual reproduction which involves breaking of the body or part of the body into several pieces, followed by the growth of a separate individual from each piece. So I hope everyone has the tute PDF. Online tute PDF you have. Yes, it's in the group. Anyone who doesn't have tute PDF, everyone has it, right? So the example in your resource is Hydra. Can anyone tell me the phylum of Hydra? Hydra ke phylum එක මොකක්ද? You don't have the tute. Okay, hold on. What is the phylum of Hydra? You don't. Malakya. Okay, I'll send the reproduction tute to the chat as well. Okay, it's been sent. Once it's there, you can download. So there in the first right corner, I have given you the example for budding. Right, Hydra is the example. Hydra is what? An Idarian. Right, Hydra is an Idarian. Okay, so you can see there's a adult Hydra, or we say a parent Hydra, and from the parent Hydra, from the side, we have a developing bud. That bud develops as a result of what? Mitosis. It's a mitotic cell division, and that is going to develop this bud, and from that new bud, from that bud, there's going to be a small Hydra coming. So the example is Hydra. Hydra is a Nidarian that performs budding. That is the example you have. Mitotically dividing cells develops into a small Hydra. Second one, fragmentation and regeneration. Also interesting. Fragmentation and regeneration. As the name says, namemma you can get an idea what is happening. The name is self-explanatory, right? There's an adult animal, and part of that adult animal is going to break off, right? And from that part, there's going to be a complete animal produced. So the example you have, they say it involves the breaking of the body or part of the body into several pieces, followed by the growth of a separate individual from each piece, right? Each fragment develops into a complete animal by the regrowth of lost body parts. That is called regeneration. So the first part is the best. What is the best known example? Planarians. Have you seen the planarian? Right? So a planarian is kind of like this, no? Right? It's a platform, right? So if you cut the planarian from here, එයාගේ චූටි කැල්ලක් කැපුවා කියලා ඒ කැල්ලෙන් planarian කෙනෙක් එන්නේ, right? So if you cut the planarian from here, right, that piece will be regenerated to form a complete planarian, and from this piece there's going to be another planarian. Two full planarians will be produced. So what is the first thing that is going to happen? The part of the body is going to break, and from that piece there's going to be regeneration, right? What is the difference between budding and regeneration? Sorry, fragmentation and regeneration. There is no breaking, right? Break එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. නිකන් imagine budding as නිකන් අර අපේ අම්මගේ budding නිකන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ නිකන් හිමීට නිකන් එහෙම side එකෙන් එළියට ආවා, right? It was meant to break off, right? මෙතන වෙන්නේ it's like a destructive process. The fragmentation happened because of digestive enzymes, right? Digestive enzymes within the organism is going to break into half. right? It's a bit destructive process. මෙතන එහෙම නෑ. බඩින් හයිඩ්‍රාගේ ලොකු හයිඩ්‍රාගේ පැත්තෙන් ඉන්නවා බඩ් කෙනෙක් එයාගෙන් ලොකු පොඩි පැටියෙක් කරනවා, right? That's the difference. But both are going to involve what? Mitotic cell division. Okay. What are the examples for fragmentation and regeneration? They haven't given flatworms, but they have given cnidarians, right? Examples: cnidarians, annelids, and they say sponges. No, sponges. What is the phylum of sponges? Yes, online people. What is the phylum of sponges? Sponges phylum is what? Okay, I'm going to wait till I get an answer. What is the phylum of sponges? Sea stars. Starfish. Sea cucumbers. Sponges are echinodermates. Echinodermata. There's a phylum. Okay? Echinodermata. So those are the usual, and also with a pencil you can write down some platyhelminthes. That means flatworms. Platyhelminths also can perform fragmentation and regeneration. Any questions? Right? Then parthenogenesis, the final kind of asexual reproduction in your syllabus. Parthenogenesis, that requires a bit of explaining. We have heard of the term parthenogenesis before, no? When have we heard of parthenogenesis? Yes. Where else have we heard about parthenogenesis? Yes, please send messages. Parthenogenesis. Right? Sponges are porifera mostly, no? Yes, sponges are porifera, not echinodermates, I think. Yes, you are correct. Right? Please send answers to the main chat, okay? Everyone can get it. Parthenogenesis. In plants, there are seeds produced without fertilization. Okay? Without fertilization, female ovule can become a seed. Right? Without fertilization. That is parthenogenesis. Similar thing is going to happen. Male and female but there's an egg. That egg is going to become an adult animal without a sperm. Parthenogenesis. Okay. Very few animals do this, right? Usually in arthropods you can see, right? As you can see, what is the definition? An egg develops into a complete individual without being fertilized. Usually it is kind of common in invertebrates, right? Without a vertebral column, it's usually common, such as almost are arthropods. Arthropods like such as bees, ants, aphids, wasps. Aphids law may parasite කෙනෙක් ගස්වල ඉන්න they suck phloem sap. Phloem මොනවා කොළපාට aphids කියලා ඉන්නේ. They are like macro plants. නිකන් සත්තුන්ගේ macro ඉන්නා වගේ like macro in plants, right? They are sucking phloem sap, right? So the best example that we can study are bees. What is happening in a bee colony? Bee colony එක මොකද වෙන්නේ? There are 3 types of bees in a bee colony. Right? Bee colony එක 3 types. There is the queen, workers, and drones. Let's start with the queen. So as the name says, what is the gender of the queen? Queen is female. Queen is female. Then you have heard of something called ploidy level. Ploidy, we did today. Diploid, haploid, you have heard, right? Chromosomes copies දෙකක් තියෙනවා නම් we call it what? Diploid. If you have 2 copies of chromosomes, we call it what? Diploid. Only one set of chromosomes are haploid, half. So this queen is diploid. She has 2 sets of chromosomes. And the other interesting thing about this queen is they are fertile. Fertile. What do you mean by fertile? Has the ability to produce eggs. Fertile. Our features ටික තමයි තියෙන්නේ. Queen is female, diploid and fertile. The queen can mate with, can reproduce with drones. Drone කියන්නේ male light. Drones are male bees. හරිද? But the interesting thing about these drones, they are haploid. They have only one set of chromosomes. Got it? They have only one set of chromosomes. I have given a flow chart of drones are male haploid. Online people, can you see this edge? You can see, right? Yeah. Then they are also fertile. They can make what? Sperms. Right? Fertile. Okay. Now, අපි දෙන්නෙක් ගැන කතා. Queens ලා ඉන්නවා drones ලා. Queen and drones, if they produced sexually, right? Let's say මේ දෙන්න එහෙම set වෙලා. If they produced sexually, they give rise to workers, worker bees. Sevika. Worker bees are female again. Worker bees are female. And what else you do need to know? Because why? The queen and the drones get together and produce this diploid workers. They will diploid. And the thing is, they are sterile. ඒගොල්ලන්ට eggs හදන්න බෑ. ඒගොල්ලෝ නිකන් workers ලා විතර. Okay. Then how are these drones produced? May haploid male may drones ලා හැදුනේ කොහොමද? That is by what? Parthenogenesis. Drones ලා හැදෙන එක තමයි අපිට ඕන. Male drones ලා හැදෙන. That is by parthenogenesis. Said that. Right? ඕක තමයි bee colony එක තියෙන අමුතු වැඩේ. Online people, board isn't much clear. Hold on. Yeah, that very corner is, I think, it's not very clear, but I'll send a photo of this whole note, okay? What I write in the board, I'll send the whole photo because I'm planning to use it as a sort of a mind map, right? I'm going to use it to give it to you as sort of a mind map, okay? How about now? Still not clear? I'll send a photo of it to the group, okay? Because I'm using that corner, okay? Right, so this is what happens in let's say a bee colony by the process of parthenogenesis. Drones, male drones are produced by parthenogenesis. How? The eggs produced by the female directly become the drones. Without fertilization, the fertile female produces eggs, that eggs directly become drones without fertilization. Males produce sperms. Sperm and egg set to know you get diploid worker. Sevikawa combine. But the thing is, the Sevikawa is sterile. Worker bees are sterile. Now, even though he's fertile, the drone haploid. You want me to explain parthenogenesis again? There are three kinds of bees in a bee colony: queen, drone, and worker bees. Queen and queen and workers are female, drones are males. The queen and the workers are diploid. They have two copies. But the thing is, only the queen is fertile, workers are sterile. They cannot make eggs. The drone is haploid. He has only one set of chromosomes. But he is fertile, he can make sperms. So when the drone sperm and the queen's eggs get together, they produce a diploid worker bee. But the special thing why we are learning this is the queen's eggs can directly become drones by parthenogenesis. Directly become drones. Okay. Make a very common in insects, right? Arthropods like a common, but very rare among vertebrates. Usually after kingdom sort of, let's say phylum chordata එකේ ඔය fish ඊළඟට amphibia reptiles very rare among those, but in reptiles few reptiles can do this, such as some lizards, and some fish can also do very rarely. Okay, parthenogenesis. Okay, any question? Parthenogenesis is not yet clear. Okay, ne? I think we can do a question. Next page, can you see? Question number 46. You have the in the tute. Question number 46. Next page. Parthenogenesis. A, B, C, D, E type question. Alright. So there's 13 people. Please send me answers. Question number 46. Parthenogenesis. I'll give you 1 minute. මේ දැන් කරපු එකෙන් අපි මේ දැන් question එකක් කරමු. Right? From the thing we just did, we are going to do questions. That is how we are going to cover. Okay. Ship. I have shared the tute. It's reproduction PDF in the chat. Can someone send it again? Okay, I'll send it again. Parthenogenesis. Okay, discuss a question. A statement A produces a complete individual from an unfertilized egg. Complete individual from an unfertilized egg. What do you think? That is basically the definition. Definition එක කියන්නේත් එහෙම egg එකක් directly becomes a complete organism, right? So that is okay. Statement A is fine. කෙලින්ම egg එකක් becomes organism. Produces female honeybees. Female honeybees වලට කියන අනිත් නම මොකද්ද? What is another name? Workers. Worker bees. Worker bees හැදෙන්නේ normal sperm egg combination. So B is wrong. Can be observed in some lizards? Yes. Forms only diploid progeny? No. Can produce both haploid and diploid. Right? In your resource says the progeny can be haploid or diploid. Right? But in the case of bees, අපි හදන්නේ haploid විතරයි, but in your resource says in some species diploid අයව හදන්නත් පුළුවන්. That is how does that happen? How does parthenogenesis make diploid progeny? Sometimes this egg is not produced by meiosis. The මෙතන වෙන්නේ meiosis එකක්නේ. Right? This egg is produced by meiosis no here. Sometimes this egg is produced by mitosis. So එතකොට එයා inherentlyම 2 වෙන්නේ. එතකොට you can produce diploid. Or sometimes meiosis වලින් හැදෙනවා, then the egg nucleus become double. Egg nucleus haploid තියෙන එක it becomes double. Very I mean very weird things can happen. So on the other hand, මෙතන මෙයා sperms හදන්නේ කොහොමද? Because එයා anyway dihaploid නේ. එයා sperms හදන්නේ by mitosis. Right? So as your resource says, the progeny can be both haploid and diploid. So B is wrong. No? Can be seen in all invertebrates? No. No. Few. Right? I mean, it can be seen among more invertebrates than vertebrates, but හැමෝගෙම නෑ. So A and C විතරයි නේ. A and C විතරයි. A and C is the answer. Right. Clear about this? We can move on to sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction, what do you need to know? What is the definition? Highlight page number 46. Is a mechanism through which a new individual is developed from a diploid zygote as a result of the fusion of two haploid gametes, the sperm and the egg, which are produced by two individuals, the male and the female parent respectively. So there is two parents, male and female, they produce meiosis. Sorry, they do meiosis. Meiosis වලින් මොකද? Sperm and egg හැදෙනවා. Sperm and egg combines and produce what? What is this sperm and egg combine process? What do we call the union of sperm and egg? Fertilization produces zygote. Alright, fertilization. Okay, zygote. This zygote, then I think normally this zygote undergoes mitosis, mitosis and becomes the adult. Zygote එක හැදුනට පස්සේ it is mitosis, right? Mitosis, right? So then usually the female gamete, the egg is large and more non-motile. The sperm is small and motile. So I think in our human body, our largest cell is the egg. The largest cell produced by the human body is the egg cell, right? And also the smallest cell produced by our body is the sperm, right? So what do you need to know about the egg? It is larger, non-motile. Sperm is smaller, motile. So usually the sperm comes to the egg. Egg usually, right? Egg stays wherever the egg is dropped, right? Egg it was deposit the egg stays there. The sperm swings and comes there. Okay. Right. Any questions? Right. So the fusion of the male and female gametes result in the zygote. The animal that mitotically develops from the zygote can turn in gives rise to gametes by meiosis. So this is the life cycle, no? So this zygote becomes an adult. It's either male or female. The adult will do meiosis and produce again gametes. They become zygote. Right. Right. So gamete formation is one of the most important things needed for sexual reproduction, right? So each gamete is a haploid unicellular reproductive cell. Highlight that. What is a gamete? It's a haploid unicellular reproductive cell. Gametes in animals are produced by special organs called gonads, right? Gametes are produced by gonads. So what is the male gonad? Male gonad is what? What is the male gonad? In a normal animal, we call it the testis. No? Testis, right? What is the female gonad? Eggs hadin ovaries. In both, meiosis happen and testis එකේන sperm හැදෙනවා, female එකේන ovary එකේන eggs හැදෙනවා. Simple story, right? Then there's something, two terms that you need to know: unisexual and bisexual organisms, right? So anyway, don't be confused. Sexual reproduce karanna, we need two parents. Definitely we need two parents, alright? But those two parents can have different, let's say, sexualities, right? Sexualities. So what are these unisexual and bisexual parents? Unisexual parents are sort of our commonplace normal males and females, right? There is one gender. So that organism, if a unisexual organism, is definitely male or either female. They can't kind, right? So they say unisexual organisms, we also give them the name dioecious. 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 How I tell you to remember this is dioecious means di means two. There are two. There is a male and a female separate. Right? There is two. Dioecious. And how to remember unisexual? එක්කෙනෙක්ගේ එක සෙක්ස් එකයි තියෙන්නේ. යුනිසෙක්ෂුවල් එක සතෙක් ගත්තොත් එයාට එක සෙක්ස් ඕගන් එකයි තියෙන්නේ. either a male or a female. But dioecious කියන එක remember it like there are two male and female කියලා දෙන්නෙක්. Okay, don't I mean, so these two terms are sort of easy to forget. ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ not the unisexual. So unisexual organisms are very common, right? The interesting part is what is a bisexual organism. We call them also hermaphrodites කියලා කියනවා. One individual has both male and female reproductive structures and therefore is able to produce both male and female gametes. Is able to produce both male and female gametes. Bisexual. Alright. Bisexual or hermaphrodite. A single organism has both male and female. Right? So you might be wondering, why do we say we still require two parents? Why do we still require two parents? ඉතින් එක්කෙනෙක්ට දෙකම තියෙනවා. Bisexual organism, a single organism has both male and female. Right? It's like this. It's a versatile feature. You can let's imagine there's only two human males stuck in an island. Right? So a island if they want to start a new population, can they do that? Only two males in. Oh, imagine population only two females are remain. Can they give rise to a new human population? No. That is the problem with being unisexual. In a limited population, in a limited number of organisms, there could be a risk of being not able to reproduce. Right? Females are can they reproduce? No. But that risk is reduced if the organisms are bisexual. So what is going to happen is, when two organisms, so there's a two bisexual organisms. They want to reproduce. They're going to get close. And what is going to happen is, doesn't matter. I mean, then males they can't reproduce. But in bisexual organisms, any two can reproduce. Right? So imagine there's a two example earthworms. Earthworms is the example, right? So there are two earthworms. When they come close together, one is going to pretend he is the male and the anithekena pretend female. At this situation, right? So they can choose to be either gender. Any two can reproduce. Any two can reproduce. You understand? So then you still require two, but any two can do it because they are bisexual. Right? So the earthworms, they are able to produce both male and female gametes by the same individual. So in a very low population, or in a, let's say, in a that kind of environment, any two are able to reproduce. So in a hermaphrodite, any two can reproduce. Any two can reproduce. Okay. That is the benefit and the interesting part. Clear? Then next sort of paragraph, fertilization, page number 46. We are fertilization, the union of egg and sperm for fusion of their nuclei to produce a zygote is called fertilization. Highlight the term. The union of egg and sperm for the fusion of their nuclei to produce a zygote is called fertilization. Egg and sperm. So the sperm nucleus will be usually put into the egg. Right? Egg එක ඇතුලේ already egg nucleus එක ඉන්නවා. ඒකට sperm එක ඇවිල්ලා inject කරනවා එයාගේ nucleus. Okay? It's like this, no? The egg is usually large, and the egg has several protective layers. You learn about the structure of the egg, right? We have to learn about the structure of the egg. The sperm head is like a drill. A drill within a katuwak, right? So the sperm head can drill through the walls of the sperm and release its DNA. Egg DNA is already inside. So they then combine, you get a zygote. Okay, that is fertilization. Then fertilization, there's two types. I have to go. If I write here, online people, can you see? You can, right? So in bisexual conditions, any two can reproduce. Right. So let's talk about fertilization further. Fertilization is of two types. External and internal. So what do you think is the most advanced type? What is the most beneficial or advanced type? Internal, no? Internal. Fertilization is of two types, as external or internal. So let's talk about external first. External usually happens in what they say, many invertebrates, amphibians, bony fish, right? Usually insects. I think no, not insects. Mollusks, I think external fertilization. Yeah, amphibians, frogs, definitely they do external fertilization. Bony fish also, Odak Malujati, they do this. How does it happen? External fertilization always occurs in aquatic environments. Has to be near water. Vatura gava vennamo. Aquatic vennamo. Because why? We'll see. The female releases the eggs while the male releases the sperm into the external environment, and the fertilization occurs in the water. What happens in usually these fish? Have you seen in fish tanks? Right? So they are releasing the eggs as they go along, and the eggs are going to deposit. Male comes and male is going to release the sperm. Spray sperms release and in the water, egg and sperm are going to fertilize. Right? So that is why we say external water is always essential for external fertilization. Right? In the tube I have given I have given this example for sexual behavior in this lizards, right? That is for parthenogenesis. Okay, you can read it later, right? These two lizards, parthenogenetic lizards. Okay. Anyway, we are talking about external fertilization. So, what are the things you need to know? Aquatic environment is essential, right? Aquatic environment is essential. Internal fertilization. So, sorry. So, then you need to talk about why in external fertilization, why do we need water? To allow the sperm to swim towards the egg and also to prevent drying of the gametes. They are going to dry and die, So, to prevent that, board isn't clear. Okay, I'll send a photo. I was going to send a photo after it's complete. Hold on. So, that is external fertilization. Usually the female comes first and deposits eggs, and after the female has gone, the male comes. Gone, they are always almost in the right? The male and the female should be sort of close to each other, otherwise they don't do this release of the gametes. But the fertilization happens outside. Then also you can say there is no sort of sexual intercourse, right? Male and female sex organs, there is no sort of interaction, right? Right? Fertilization, that is external. Then let's move on to internal. Right. Internal is more advanced. There are so many benefits to doing internal fertilization. What are they? Read about it. 46. Sperms are deposited in or near the female reproductive tract, and the fertilization occurs within the female reproductive tract. Occurs in insects, reptiles, and mammals. Highlight. What are the examples? Insects, reptiles, and mammals. You know, mammals always we have internal fertilization, right? There is male and female animals, are there is intercourse, and that is how fertilization happens. Where is internal fertilization happening? Inside the female reproductive tract. Inside female reproductive tract. So this female reproductive tract is very nice compared to whatever the aquatic environment. Why? We'll find out, right? So internal fertilization is an adaptation that enables sperm to reach an egg even when the environment is dry. Intercourse for the like advanced organisms, right? Mammals, we live in the live on land, right? So internal fertilization removes the need to have aquatic environment. Okay. The male copulatory organ delivers sperm, and the female reproductive tract often has receptacles for the storage and delivery of sperm to mature eggs. Right. It's like this. The female reproductive tract, if you take the human one, right? So there's the vagina. Right. You can see the Mitchell-Rubin, right? You can see they have the vaginal canal, right? Vagina is sort of the part of the reproductive system that is opening to the outside, no? And from the vagina, there we have what we call as the uterus. We have a uterus, right? Uterus is muscular, and the baby grows, right? Uterus. And so the female reproductive system is like this, and here you have the female reproductive system is like this. And what is going to happen? The male copulatory organ is usually like a penis, no? Right? So the penis is going to be inserted, right? And it's going to release the sperms into the uterus. That's the normal story. So that is where usually in the female reproductive tract you have these oviducts, right? Or fallopian tubes. That is where the fertilization happens, right? So that is this is the internal environment inside the female reproductive system. That is where reproduction happens. And there's something interesting which says the female reproductive tract has receptacles for storage and delivery of sperm into mature eggs. What do you understand from this? Here in the female reproductive system, where the vagina connects to the uterus, that is called the cervix. Cervix එකේ there are two pockets දෙකක්. We call them as fornices. You don't need this, okay? Vaginal fornix, right? In those two pockets, the females can store sperm. Once they have been released into the sort of the female reproductive system, they can store sperm for at least about, I think, 12 hours. They can keep without the sperms dying. All right. So that's what they mean by receptacles for storage and delivery. Okay. That is just a human example. That's what they mean. Internal fertilization is typically associated with production of fewer gametes than external fertilization, but results in the survival of a higher fraction. So, in external fertilization, there needs to produce so many gametes, because why? The chance of fertilization is also low, and also there's a high chance of being destroyed because it's in the outside. No? We don't know. So the female has to produce thousands of eggs, and the male has to produce millions of sperms, right? So the numbers has to be very high to make sure at least, let's say, few hundred babies are produced. Large numbers. So that's one of the reasons, right? Large number of gametes are required. But here, fewer gametes is fine. Because why? The female is protecting all the gametes. Inside the female, you have the egg, and the sperms are also coming into the female. So, fewer gametes are enough. Fewer gametes are enough. And what's going to happen after fertilization? The zygote, in external fertilization, the zygote is also outside. Right? The zygote is also outside. It is inside an egg, right? But it's still outside. So there's a chance it's again getting destroyed. But in internal fertilization, once the zygote is made, the zygote comes into the comes here into the uterus. In the uterus, the mother is going to take care. Right? So the zygote is also very nicely protected in internal fertilization. Therefore, that's what we say. It provides greater protection to the embryos, right? And also, many animals with internal fertilization has parental care, right? Parental care. That means during pregnancy, mother is taking care, and also after the child is born, most of the internal fertilized animals have a period that the parents are looking after the child, right? Kodak mammals like right? And there are other things. In birds and other reptiles, there are shells in the eggs. And there are internal membranes as well. So if you take an egg, right? If you take an egg, inside there is the egg yolk, right? Yolk is usually the female sort of the genetic material the egg, and it later becomes the embryo. But surrounding the egg, you have what we call as the yolk sac and also allantois කියලා nutrition fluid inside the eggs, right? So that is going to provide nutrition to this developing embryo as well, right? All those are features that can only be found in internal fertilization, and also make a වටේට shell එකක් තියෙනවනේ, right? That is going to provide more protection, no? From physical damage. විතරේ කට්ට තියෙනවා. Then finally they say some retain the embryo for a portion of any development within the female reproductive tract. That is called what? Pregnancy. නැත්නම් gestation කියලා කියන අපි නිකන් බබාව බඩේ තියන් හදාගෙන uterus එකේ තියාගෙන developing the baby is called gestation or pregnancy. Alright? Any questions? Any questions? External and internal fertilization. Summary of sexual reproduction. It always involves two parents. The parents have sexual organs that are called gonads. In males, they are testes, females, they are ovaries. There meiosis happens. By meiosis, males produce sperms, females produce eggs. Sperms are usually smaller and motile, they can move. Eggs are larger and non-motile. They get together to form the zygote, which is diploid, and mitosis of the zygote creates an adult. There can be two types of parents, as unisexual parents and bisexual parents. In unisexual parents, there's a one female and one male fixed. In bisexual, both parents has the ability to be female or male. So they are called hermaphrodites. Then The union of the egg and the sperm is called fertilization. Fertilization is of two types, as external and internal. External always require water medium, aquatic, and also it requires to produce a large number of gametes. Internal fertilization happens inside the female reproductive tract. Therefore, it requires fewer gametes because of the protection. And there is parental care. Parental care also can be seen. Okay. So this is the basic summary of introduction to reproduction. Any questions that you have? So if I explain this again, these receptacles, there's the vaginal canal. So vaginal canal is connected to the uterus like this. What we call as the cervix. ගැබ්ගල කියලා කියනවා in Sinhala. So the uterus is like this. Uterus is like a muscle bag. Right? Uterus is like a bag of muscle. That is where the babies grow. And here you have these receptacles. Those are called fornix. I will show you. Right? So this is the vagina where the female reproductive system opens to the outside. These are fallopian tubes. And here you have the ovaries. Right? Ovaries. The male copulatory organ will be inserted into the female reproductive tract and the sperms are released. Some of the sperms can be stored in these fornices for some time to make sure, so increase the chance of reproduction. No? Like part of sperms destroy you know, the likelihood of fertilization is low. So the female reproductive tract can store these. Okay. Any questions? Then we can do questions. Right? No. Question number 9. Institute. Last one in this page, the last question. Which of the following statements regarding asexual reproduction of animals is correct? Last one. Okay, I will give you 2 minutes. Okay, I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Recording in progress.
Right. So I'll send you. I sent a photo of this sort of the note into the group. Right. If you like, at home you can, while studying, draw something like this. Okay. Full chart while you're studying. Right. So then, you're not in the group. Okay, I'll create a separate one for physical. So next week we'll have more. Right. So that's because we are clashing with Sudarsa's time, no? That's why I think so. Let's next week. Yeah. Okay. Three hours. What is the answer? Question number 9. Yeah. Online people. What do you think? Yes. Which of the following fall? Okay. Which of the following statement regarding asexual reproduction of animals is correct? Right. It relies entirely on meiotic division. It relies entirely on meiotic division. No. Correct it. Right. Correct it and write a review. Cut the meiosis. Cut the meiotic and say it relies entirely on mitosis. Mitosis. Second statement, it may produce offspring with varied genotypes. No. Right? There is no chance of producing organisms with varied genotypes. Because why? Mitosis. Mitosis is very, very careful. Mitosis is very, very careful not to produce changes. Right? It is a very careful cell cycle that is always looking to not make any changes. Right? If you can remember cell cycle checkpoints, right? Cell cycle checkpoints are there. It enhances the evolution of species in changing environments. No, evolution cannot happen because why? Same offspring ඔක්කොම එකයි. Right? For evolution to happen, what needs to be there? Variation. There has to be different animals in the population. There has to be weak ones, strong ones, dumb ones, intelligent ones, big ones, small ones. එහෙම varied environment එක තමයි there's a chance of for the survival of the fittest and evolution and blah blah. Right? It allows rapid multiplication of individuals from a single parent. Yes, mitosis can happen rapidly. Okay. New organisms are developed from a sperm without fertilization. No. Always an egg. Right? What do you call that? So cut the sperm and say egg. What is that process? Yes. Egg becoming a full animal, full organism. Parthenogenesis. You can cut it. New organisms can develop from a egg without fertilization. Then in front of it you can write that is parthenogenesis. No? Clear? We forgot this. Before going to that, there's another question we can do. Before going to that, let's summarize sexual reproduction in terms of benefits. right, in terms of benefits. Let's summarize. So that is the next paragraph. Okay. Significance of asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. This could be part of an essay. Okay, significance of asexual and sexual reproduction could be part A or part B of an essay. Usually part A. Okay, so put a star mark there if you like. It's a essay question, likely essay question, and I'm going to give it as a homework as well. Right, I'm going to give it as a homework as well. Please compare. Right, I don't have the space, so you need to classify asexual and sexual into two sides and write down the advantages and disadvantages. So talking about asexual reproduction advantages, rapid multiplication of individuals from single parents. Then second one, now no need to write down, just highlight and keep in mind. Okay. So first advantage of asexual is what? Rapid multiplication. Second one, no time or energy spent in searching mates. Then another advantage you can say, in stable or favorable environments can propagate successful genotypes specifically. In stable, favorable, right? For example, in a very good, where in an environment where there is a lot of nutrition and protection, asexual reproduction is very nice, no? The population can expand, so all is good, right? In a favorable, stable environment is not changing as well as it's good. Okay. Then let's say it's a disadvantage. There is no or very little genetic variation. There is no or very little genetic variation, right? So if there is any mutation in the parent cell, it can cause harmful effects on the survival ability of offspring in changing environments. So in changing environments, two things can happen. In a changing environment, two things can happen. Either the environment is unfavorable, so the asexually reproducing organism cannot change to that, right? For example, let's say the environmental temperature increased. So in the population, there could be animals that are able to tolerate the high temperature, right? So if they were sexually reproducing, right, there is a chance that there is variation in the population, no? හොඳට temperature එකේ දරා ගන්න පුළුවන් අය ඉන්න chance එකක් තියෙනවා. But if in a asexually reproducing population, if the environment became unfavorable, what does that mean? If it's asexually reproducing, the entire population is the exact same, right? The entire population is exactly the same. So there is low chance that there is some animals having different features, right? Temperature එක tolerate කරන්න පුළුවන් අය ඉන්න chance එක අඩුයි. So there is a chance that this environment could be deadly to the entire population. Entire population could be wiped out, right? But if that happens in a sexually reproducing population, there is a chance that because of the variation, some animals can tolerate the unfavorable condition. So those animals will survive, right? And that is going to do evolution. Okay. And the other thing is, there could be a harmful mutation. By any way, mitosis produced a harmful mutation. What is a mutation? It's something, it's an error in DNA. Mutation is error in DNA. You learn about these mutations in molecular biology, right? A mutation is something that is wrong about the DNA. Okay. So, if a mutation happened in a sexually reproducing, again, those bad organisms can be removed by evolution. But in an asexual one, everyone is going to get the harmful mutation, and everyone sometimes can die. Alright. So, the second paragraph, page number 47. Unlike sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction results in the production of unique offspring by the combination of two parents. Right? There is meiosis happening before the production of sperm and egg. What are the ways that meiosis can produce variation? Meiosis spelling variation next week. Right? Meiosis spelling, what are the ways meiosis can produce variation? Today we learned about one. Crossing over. Crossing over can do. There's something again, another one. Online people, can you name? Meiosis, variation in meiosis, yes. A way meiosis can produce variation. Crossing over, crossing over, independent assortment. Can't remember. Independent assortment. That is what? The maternal and paternal pairs orientated the metaphase plate randomly. Go back and read, okay? That is called what? Random assortment. So those are few. There's another. I mean, crossing over and recombination is two things, and random assortment is also there. So meiosis, whatever the end product of meiosis, either the sperm or egg, are different. No two sperms are similar to each other. Sperms are always different. Eggs are different. So the sexually reproducing population is always, there's a lot of variety. Okay. So second paragraph says that meiotic recombination during sexual reproduction helps to produce varied genotypes. The unique gene combinations formed during sexual reproduction would be advantageous, as this can enhance reproductive success and survival of a species in changing environments. By any chance, if the environment change to be unfavorable, because of the variation, there could be stronger organisms. Beneficial gene combination arising through recombination may speed up adaptation. Right? Some organisms could be very fast to adapt to whatever the environmental change. During sexual reproduction, the shuffling of genes might allow a population to clear sets of harmful genes more readily, which would enhance the survival of species. Okay, that is again evolution. Why? The weaker organisms do not get a chance to reproduce, right? Because they are weak, right? Sometimes they might not be able to find a partner, or they might die before being able to reproduce because they are weak. So, ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ තියෙන weak genes are removed. They are not passed to the next generation, right? So, this is what we called as clearing of harmful genes. Clearing of harmful genes, right? Clearing of harmful genes. So, homework, right? So, online people also, I want you to have a separate book for essay writing, right? Essay writing book. So, we are going to use essays. I mean, there are several benefits of this essay writing. I have talked about this. We are going to use essay writing as to practice essays to write in the paper. That is one benefit. And also we are going to use writing essays as a memorization technique. Right? Essays liye paadam karanna. I'm going to use that technique as a form of active learning. Right? Active memorization. So I'm going to give homework. There could be targeted essays. Sometimes just for you to study, I am going to give you essays, right? Just for you to study, I'll give you homework essays. So have a separate book for essays, and by the end of this 10 months, let's try to write maximum number of essays, at least 2 essays per week in the class, and I'm going to sort of guide you with writing self-studying essays as right. Taniyen essay liyannath I'm going to give you some advices, right? Okay. I think we have another MCQ we can do, right? MCQ number 7, online people, in the tute, from the top, second question. Select the correct statement regarding asexual reproduction in animals. Can you see this question? Select the correct statement regarding asexual reproduction in animals. 2 minutes. Right. Shall we discuss? Okay. So I didn't get any answers this time. Please send to the main chat, Puta. Okay. Send to everyone. It's fine. Right? Okay. What are the answers? Second one. Yeah. What do you think? Correct statement regarding asexual reproduction in animals. Yes. Online people. Female workers of honeybees develop through parthenogenesis. Female workers are produced by normal fertilization, right? That is by a sperm and egg. You can actually consider it as semi-sexual. I mean, it's sexual, right? There's a male and a female involved, right? You can say female workers. What is the so they are sterile, no? Female workers are sterile. You can write a review in front, small one. Write a review for the second MCQ, first one in front. Female workers are sterile. Female workers are sterile. Diploid, sterile diploid animals produced by the eggs and the sperm produced by the eggs and the sperm from the queen and the drone. Right? Produced from the eggs and the sperm from the queen and the drone. Queen and drones. There's usually only one queen, or there could be two queens, but so many drones. Okay. Eggs from the queen and sperms from the drones. Second one, some platyhelminthes reproduce asexually by regeneration. Yes, planarians, I told you, planarians have the ability to fragment and regenerate. Platyhelminthes. So planaria is a what kind of platyhelminthes? Free living. Free living and parasitic right? Free living live outside, parasitic live inside. Usually animals. Tapeworms again. Taenia tapeworm is a parasitic platyhelminths. Okay. Budding of hydra relies on mitotic and meiotic cell divisions. Hydra budding asexual nang only mitosis. Right? There is no meiosis involved. Budding of hydra, mitosis. Cut the meiosis. Right? Meiosis එක කැපුවහම we get a correct state. Okay. Fragmentation allows some annelids to produce varied genotypes from a single parent. No. There is no such thing as varied genotypes in asexual reproduction, because why? It's mitosis. It's mitosis. So there is no variation. In changing environmental conditions, asexual reproduction would be more advantageous to cnidarians. Yes, cnidarians do asexual reproduction, but in a changing environment, that environmental change could be what? Unfavorable. Unfavorable, you know, asexual means it's a bad luck, right? In a changing environment, being an organism doing asexual reproduction is not very good. Right. Okay, I think any other MCQ that we can do? No, right? Next page, there's a few structured essay questions. Next page, we have a few structured essay questions. You can do in the first question set. Yeah, there's a question saying name a phylum which includes animals that reproduce by budding and fragmentation. First one you can do, and then in the sort of the third set you have state the disadvantage of asexual reproduction to a particular species of animals. That one you can do. Then finally question number 3, it says state 2 advantages of asexual reproduction seen among invertebrates. Quickly do those questions. You can now understand what you can do, right? Anything that is from the introduction to reproduction you can do. Asexual, sexual, or katandara you can do now. Right. Send me the answers. First question, what's the answer? Name a phylum which includes animals that reproduce by budding and fragmentation. ඔය ඕන එකක් කියන්න පුළුවන් නේද? මේ list එකක්. Which one did you write? Cnidarians, annelids, sponges, platyhelminthes. Next one, what can you do? State the disadvantage of asexual reproduction to a particular species of animals. So rules දෙකක් දීලා තියෙනවා. They have given two rules. So you need to write a few things. What are the things that you need to write? What is the question? Disadvantage of asexual reproduction. Right. What are the disadvantages? Yes. Any mutation in the parent cell can cause harmful effects on the survival ability of offspring in changing environments. Right. Yes, it is also possible. Or you can say like this, a harmful mutation. If there is a harmful mutation, environmental changes could be deadly to all individuals. So they can, right? What are they asking? A disadvantage, no? Then final one, state two advantages of asexual reproduction seen among invertebrates. Anyway, you can write any two common advantages. Rapid multiplication of individuals from single parents, that is one. Then you can say no time or energy is needed to be spent in searching for mates. Okay. That is the end of introduction to reproduction. We can start the male reproductive system. So, the male reproductive system is actually very complicated in anatomy. Anatomy means what? How the different structures are there, right? That structurally, the male reproductive system is very complicated. There are so many tubes, there are so many external things, right? External projections, and there is movement, right? There's something called the erection, right? And there is something called ejaculation, the release of sperms, and there's a lot of glands associated, prostate chi, seminal vesicles chi, right? So anatomy, or let's say structurally, the male reproductive system is very complicated compared to the female, right? But functionally very simple. Functionally very simple. There's only one thing for the, basically one thing, or let's say two things for the male reproductive system to do. That is what? To produce the sperm and to release the sperm into the female reproductive tract. That's the only thing expected from the male reproductive system. Got it? But if you take the female one, structurally very simple. එළියට ආපු canal එකක් තියෙනවා vagina එක, then there's a sort of a muscular bag called the uterus, two tubes and ovaries, right? It has the normal functions that is producing eggs, and then fertilization happens inside the female reproductive system, and then what is the most complicated thing? Pregnancy, gestation. That is regulated, very tightly regulated, and it's a very complicated procedure. Complete human කෙනෙක්ව හදන්න එපා. Right? Within 40, let's say 38 weeks, a complete human being will be produced. Right? It's a very complicated process. That's why we can say physiologically female reproductive system is very complicated, but structurally simple. Anatomically, again structurally, the male is complicated, but very simple functions to do. So before we move on, I'll give you, let's have sort of a 3D idea, right, about how different structures are, let's say, oriented in the male reproductive system. All right. So nine people, can you see? Right. You can see, no? Cover. No, right? Okay. So you can see a bit of the external anatomy, right? There's an external structure that is called the penis, right? And so if you remove the right, so mainly two external structures we can say. There is the penis. This is the penis. I mean, I'll remove the skin, right? And underneath you have the male gonads that are in a skin bag that is called the what? Right. So this is the external appearance. Right. We have the penis and the what we call as a scrotum. Right. It's a bag of, let's say, skin that where you have the testis. Okay. So if you remove the skin of, I mean the entire skin, I will remove. Right. So this is the internal appearance. Right. So this is the penis, and through the penis, what is coming? I mean, what is the opening of the penis? That is common to what? Urinary system and the genital system both, right? So through the opening in the penis, what may usually comes out? Urine. But during sexual reproduction, we can say the sperm is coming out, right, through the opening in the penis, right? Then if we focus a little bit on these external things, we have the testis, right? Sorry, so this is the testis, right? Testis is the male gonad, right? And immediately outside the testis, we have a structure called epididymis. Epididymis, right? Epididymis, let's say, sperm training camp. Testis again, hadana sperms become mature in the epididymis. Okay, they get the ability to move and they get their final shape in this place that is called as epididymis. Then from the epididymis, we have a tube that is called the vas deferens, right? Vas deferens, that is going up like this, and into the what we call as the pelvis. Right? Then what is this big ball-like structure? What is that ball-like structure? Urine bag, urinary bladder, right? Where we store urine until we pass. Okay. Online students, this chat. Okay, I'll send. Right. So that is the bladder. Right. So bladder is very closely associated with the reproductive system. Then can you see, so this is what is the tube, the blue color? That's difference that is coming from the testis. Okay, that's difference. මෙහෙම bladder අපි වුණ bladder එක, let's look from behind the bladder. Let's go behind the bladder and I'll remove some of this වැඩක් නැති දේවල්, right? And if you look from behind the bladder and I zoom out, what can you see? So you can see the penis and the testis, right? You can see the blue color tube that is called the vas deferens, right? That is coming behind the bladder. No? Bladder behind it, there's a gland of the male reproductive system that is called the seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle. Okay, seminal vesicle. And then yating, there's a massive, this sort of a spherical gland that is called the prostate. Prostate, right? Prostate gland. Purastha granthi again. Have you heard? Prostate gland. Right? So if you take a cross section of the prostate gland on a kapala balwood, there is a internal branching tubes network. If you remove them also, then you can see how the inside the prostate glands looks like. Right? Sometimes for the episode. Alright. Okay. So this is the cross section of the prostate gland. Then udding in who is this? Bones right? Okay, on very simplified now. Okay. So who is this? So this is the prostate gland. This is the prostate gland. Immediately above, who is this big structure? That is the bladder. Or is the urine bladder. Then can you see? So this is what? The urine tube. It is coming from where? The kidneys. That is going into the bladder. That is a urine tube. Called the what? Ureter. Ureter. Ureter is going into the bladder. Apita denata ureter ko onne. What do we need? We need this other tube that is coming from the testis. This tube that is coming from the testis. This tube is going into the prostate. Can you see? It is going into the prostate. Prostate gland. And in the prostate gland, this tube is going to join with, what is this? It is called the urethra. Excretion the urethra. So from the bladder to the outside, the urine tube is called what? The urethra. It is going through what? The urethra is going through the penis. Right? If you take a you can see. Sorry. The urethra, can you see? The urethra is going through the penis. Right? Urethra is going through the penis. So far is the path okay. So sperms are produced here in the testis. There's this tube called the vas deferens, right? That is going like this, like this, behind the bladder. And behind the bladder, it is going to go into the prostate gland. And inside the prostate gland, there's the urethra, urine tube, and they are going to combine. Can you see here? The sperms are getting into the urethra, and through the urethra, it is going to come out of the penis using or through this opening. It's called the urethral orifice. Right? That is the basic plan. And talking about the glands of the male reproductive system, we have the seminal vesicles here. Prostate gland is one of the biggest glands, and there's a chuti gland, two pairs of chuti glands here, called what? Bulbo-urethral glands, very small. Okay. So this is the male reproductive system. Online people, any questions? Any questions that you have? Yes. This is the anatomy. Complicated, no? Right? There is the ureters bringing urine into the bladder from the top, and there is this tube that is bringing sperm in here. Testis එකේ sperm ගේනවා මෙයා. Right? And at this point, inside the prostate, the two tubes or the two paths are going to cross, and through the same tube, both urine and sperms are coming out. Okay. In a female, it's not like that. In a female, there's a separate sexual opening and there's a urethra separate, right? But in a male, they come. Urine and sperm come out of the same opening. Any questions before we move on to the resource book? You want me to show it again? Right? So, full male reproductive system. Yeah, make a balloon. Right? So, external parts you can see. So, this is with the full skin, right? You can see the scrotum, which is a skin fold, right? If you remove the full skin. So, these are other coverings that you don't need to know, right? May have make them a separate covers, I'll remove all the bones. This is basically it. And udding kidneys දෙකක් because why? We call our sort of reproductive system not alone, we call it our genito-urinary system. So urinary system and the reproductive system are like very closely connected, no? Genito-urinary කියලානේ කියන්නේ, right? Yeah. Clear. Okay. Let's move on to the resource book. Page number 47. Page number 47. Structure and function of the human male reproductive system. Main internal reproductive structures of a male consist of the gonads, testes, which produce sperm, and reproductive hormones. What is the male reproductive hormone? Testosterone. Okay. Epididymis, which store mature sperms. Remember the epididymis? Or a testis එක එහා පැත්තම තිබ්බ the epididymis, right? Which store mature sperms, accessory gland that secrete products required for sperm movement, and ducts that transport mature sperm and the glandular secretions. External reproductive organs for male are the scrotum and penis. Alright. So let's talk about the external things first. The scrotum. Scrotum is a pouch formed by a fold of the body wall. The scrotum is divided into two compartments. Each compartment contains one testis, one epididymis, and part of the spermatic cord. So without the penis, scrotum is like this. Inside the scrotum, you have one testis like this. Both testicles, in each side you have one testis. Epididymis is like this. It's like a cap, right? Epididymis. And from the epididymis, you have what? The vas deferens that is going like this. So through this, this is the vas deferens. Other than the vas deferens, there is blood vessels coming into the testis as well. Blood vessels, nerves, and blood vessels include arteries and veins. There is something called as a spermatic cord, right? So මෙහෙම testis එකෙන් මෙහෙම යන නිකන් covering නිකන් let's say අර wires වල වටේට අපි යොතන අර tape පොතන්, right? Electric wires වල tape පොතන් ඒ වගේ there's something called as the spermatic fascia that is in the spermatic cord. right? So what are the components in the scrotum? You have one testis, one epididymis, and part of the spermatic cord, right? Part of the spermatic cord. You can write down in the resource if you like. What are the things in the spermatic cord? What are the things in the spermatic cord? Vas deferens, vein and artery to the testis. Also some nerves are also nerves. You know, testicular artery and testicular vein. If you like, you can draw. No need to draw in a, I mean, yes. So at the cover of your tube, I have given the same, a screenshot of the same software, right, in the cover. I want you to label it, right? Now you know the parts, right? The parts you can see, I want you to label it, right? Okay, right. So that is about the scrotum. You will be asked to name what are the things found in a scrotum. Scrotum has two compartments. No, there are two scrotal sections. Right. Each compartment has one testis, one epididymis, and part of the spermatic cord. Right. Testis are found within the scrotum, which allows the maintenance of the testis temperature 2 degrees Celsius below the core temperature. Highlight 2 degrees Celsius below the core temperature. Testis සීතලට තියන්න ඕනේ. Why do we need to keep the testis cold? That is something we are still researching, right? There's something called spermatogenesis happening, right? Making of sperms. Spermatogenesis happening in the testis. So for the proper spermatogenesis, the temperature should be about, what is the normal temperature, body temperature? Online people, what is your normal body temperature? Unak නැත්තම්. If there is no fever, what is your normal body temperature? 37 to 39 වගේ නේද? Right? So usually your sperms have to be maintained around 35 to 36 degrees Celsius. So your testes have to be maintained around this temperature for proper spermatogenesis. Okay. Testes develop in the abdominal cavity and develop in the abdominal cavity and descend to the scrotum just before birth. Alright. So usually before a baby boy is born, something called descent of testis happens, right? ඉපදෙන්න චුට්ටි වෙලාවකට කලින් usually. But in about, I think, 3 or 4 boys out of 10, 10න් 4ක 5ක විතර ඉපදෙනකොට testis haven't descended. But it happens within first year. Within the first year, if it happens, it's fine, right? Many boys, they don't have the testis in the scrotum when they are born, right? Because it's a natural process that should, I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen, right? Abdominal cavity the testis are sort of around here and they come in a sort of a path into the scrotum area settle, right? So up to 1 year it can happen, but if in a child that is older than 1 year, if the testes are still inside the body, there is a problem, right? And it has to be corrected before the child reaches adolescence, right? secondary sexual characters එන්න කලින් correct කරන්න. Otherwise it could be a risk for subfertility. Right? ඒ පිරිමි ළමයා subfertile වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් සමහරවිට cancer වෙන්න, testicular cancer විදියට වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් මේ abdomen එක ඇතුලේ testis එක ඉතුරු වෙලා තිබ්බා. Okay? So that is called undescended testis. Testis එක ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. Then they can ask you how the testes are cooled. Two ways. How the testes are cooled? Highlight the two ways. They are located outside the scrotum and the scrotum skin is thin covering. The scrotum thin is thin. The scrotum skin is thin. Right? Scrotum skin is thin. Okay, so let's talk about testis and let's take a small break. Okay. So how are the testis cooled? Located outside the body and the thin covering of the scrotum. Very thin skin, only a skin layer, right? Each testis contain many lobules. Within each lobule there are highly coiled convoluted loops called seminiferous tubules. So I have given a diagram for this. In the tube, this is sperm. Sorry, testis cross section. Cross section of testis. Right? I can draw a rough diagram. My diagrams are not that good. Right? If we cut the testis in half, there's a meme, right? If we cut the testis in half, then right? If we cut the testis in half, right, you will be able to see these sort of sections like this in the testis, right? We have sections there. Those are called what? These are called lobules. In each lobule, there is what? A tube, right? A tube that is very tightly coiled. It's very tightly coiled, right? It's very tightly coiled. Right? That highly coiled, can you see? Inside the lobule, you have, what do you have? What do you call that very tightly coiled tubule? Seminiferous. Seminiferous tubule. Okay. Sperms are produced within these tubules. Different cells that undergo spermatogenesis are surrounded and connected to a special type of supportive cells, Sertoli cells, located in the lumen. These cells secrete the hormone inhibin, nourish and provide attachment for cells in different stages of spermatogenesis. Groups of cells called Leydig cells or interstitial cells are present in the connective tissue between the seminiferous tubules. Leydig cells secrete the hormone testosterone and other androgens after puberty, which promotes spermatogenesis in tubules. Seminiferous tubules combine to form a single tubule duct at the upper part of the testis, right? All these seminiferous tubules are going to be connected at the front of the testis like this, and that is going to give rise to what? The epididymis. Epididymis again, and through the epididymis you have vas difference going out. Story. So I'll show you a good diagram. I mean, that same diagram is included in the tube, right? Okay. So what we are going to do is, I told you the testis has these sections. What are those called? Lobules. Inside each lobule, there's a very small tube, right? That is called seminiferous tubule, coiled very packed very tightly, right? ගොඩාක් convolute වෙලා pack වෙලා තියෙනවා. So what we are going to do is we are going to take one of those seminiferous tubules. මෙහෙම බලන්න. As a cross section, we are going to take a look at this seminiferous tubule, right? Seminiferous tubule cross section එක බලන්න. So in the center we have a lumen, right? Lumen එක කියන්නේ බටේ මැද හිස් තැන වගේ, right? And then there is also outside cell layer that is going to be composed of what we call as this outer layer is composed of what we call as interstitial cells. Is it name given? Leydig cells, right? This outside has our Leydig cells. What is the function of Leydig cells? They say Leydig cells are මොකද කරන්නේ? Testosterone, right? Testosterone is secreted by Leydig cells, right? Then මේ gap එක කවුද? In this gap between whatever the interstitial cells or Leydig cells and between the lumen, we have different cells undergoing different stages of what? Spermatogenesis, right? So it's like a few generations of cells. මේම cell එකක් තියෙනවා, මේම cell එකක් තියෙනවා. අන්තිමට මැද you have the sperms, right? Several generations of cells undergoing different stages of making sperm. මේ ඔක්කොම different අර නිකන් before sperm they නිකන් අර sperm ගේ සීයා sperm ගේ තාත්තා and like this, right? Different generations of cells at the end they are going to produce sperm. And ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වටේට නිකන් නෑරෝ සෙට් එකක් ඉන්නවා support එකට මෙන්න මෙහෙම. They are called what? Supportive cells. Yes, those supportive cells are called what? Sertoli cells. Sertoli. Sertoli නමෙම තියෙනවනේ S එකක්. Sertoli for support, right? Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells provide some support. And ඒගොල්ලෝ secrete කරන hormone එකක් that is called what? Inhibin. Yes. That is the basic plan. I'll show you some diagrams, then we can take a small break, right? Make it photo එකක් යම්කෝ නැත්තම් පෙන්නුන්නේ clear, right? So what do you know about testis now? Right? If you take a cross section of the testis, there are lobules, and packed into each lobule you have seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubule, if you take a cross section, it's going to look like this, right? makan deh Pak. Right. So this is what I told you. This is highly convoluted set of tubes. That same diagram I have given in the tube. Those are seminiferous tubules. So can you see all the seminiferous tubules are combining at the end that are going into the epididymis. Right? ඔක්කොම sperm ටික බේරුවට වගේ ඔක්කොම sperms are into the epididymis, right? So you don't need these layers and layers, right? So this is the ductus difference. So vas difference, that is, can you see, methane epididymis, this is the end of epididymis, and you have the vas difference going up. This is a cross section of a seminiferous tubule. So how do you understand this? මෙතන ඇත්තටම නිකන් අර නිකන් කේක් එකක පළුවක් වගේ තියෙනවා. So the whole ductus difference, sorry, the full ductus difference, sorry, not ductus difference, seminiferous tubule. It's like this. මේ full seminiferous tubule එක මේ වගේ. අපි නිකන් මෙහෙම පොඩි කෑල්ලක් කපලා අරන් තියෙන්නේ. Right? Full seminiferous tubule තමයි මම අතන අඳින්න try එකක් දුන්නේ, but not very successful. Right? එතකොට මොනවාද, what do you know about the cross section of the seminiferous tubule? Outside you have Leydig cells or interstitial cells. What is the function of the Leydig cells? They secrete testosterone. And in the walls you have several generations of cells that are at the end going to become sperm. The main මුලින්ම sort of the sperm එකේ 100. ඊපස්සේ මේ තාත්තා එහෙම යනවා. මෙයා නිකන් great grandfather ඔහොමම අන්තිමට sperms, right? So that is how sperms are produced at the end, and to provide them support, and also we say attachment, and also there are some other functions, protection, we have these supportive cells, Sertoli cells. They also secrete the hormone inhibin. That is basic plan. Any questions? No? Okay, right. So after the break, we'll continue and let's do more questions. Okay, right. Take a 15-minute break. We'll come back at 3:45, 20 minutes then. Yeah? Okay, right.